Welcome to Deano's garage for what is the Honda VFR750 F1991 project. What we are going to do is do some serious vinyl covering of this old VFR750 seat. Now it's not too bad, but it's a little bit tired, and I've got some lovely grey vinyl because I think the grey looks nicer with the white bike in there. I have my trusty old Stanley staple gun, I have some 8mm staples, and I have a decent sharp knife to cut the vinyl seat covering with. So without further ado, what I will do is get this unwrapped and then show you guys what it looks like, and then we'll start unpicking this, and then we'll have a look at the sort of original compared to the new stuff, and then we'll go from there. Let's have a look. Right, so this is the new grey vinyl. As you can see, it's a lovely light grey, and some of the VFR 750s were covered on their seats with this very light, almost sort of silver grey in colour vinyl, and obviously this is what I want to put onto this old seat here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start by undoing the staples from the old seat, and then we can have a look at the pattern. I am hoping, by the way, this is 1 metre by 1 metre square, and I'm hoping that this will be just enough to stretch over here. And the only way I'm going to find that out really is to unpick the old and then sort of compare that in size and see whether I've got just enough to be able to put that over this one. Let's have a look and get that unpicked now. So with a flat screwdriver, so it's a very thin flat screwdriver, and some pliers, I'm going to begin removing the staples all the way along, and you can just probably make out this is where the original pattern's been cut and then obviously stapled all the way through. So I'm going to begin by removing the staples, pulling them out until I go all the way around and end up with basically the flat sort of original pattern. And once I've removed all that, I'll show you what that looks like. Right, so I'll just talk you through what I've done. So I've gone all the way around the entire perimeter edge, just trying to hook this very thin bladed screwdriver underneath each and every staple and just sort of pop it out. Now I'm not trying to remove the staple with the screwdriver. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But what I am trying to do is get them to a point where I can actually get a purchase on the staple and remove with the pliers. Now the hardest bit of all of this really is trying to get right underneath the staple with the screwdriver, you know, sort of digging in and trying to get and lift the staples up to a point where you can then, with the pliers, pull them out. So yeah, like I say, the trickiest bit really is just getting that screwdriver underneath, and then once you've done that and you've just sort of popped them up, this is the easier bit. Most of the staples will probably sort of snap out and sort of break one side, and then you just sort of pull it out from the other. Some are sort of old and rusty and you've got to get right in and pull them out, but see, as you can see, this is kind of the easy part of it, just actually removing the staple from the plastic, and I just got to work my way around now until we get to that point where we can then lift this off. But as you can see, they are, I don't know if you can see that actually, but they are basically around about a sort of 8 to 10mm staple. Now when you put new staples in, you obviously don't want to use something too long, because when you get to areas like this down here and even on these side walls, if they're too long, they're basically going to puncture through, and you're going to feel it, and it's going to sort of stick through on the outside of your vinyl. So yeah, you really only want about a sort of 6 to 8mm staple, nothing longer than that. So I'm going to work my way around now and remove all of these staples. Right, so that is pretty much most of the staples removed. Some in a few places have sort of stayed inside the plastic and have been quite difficult to get off, and as you sort of pop this, it leaves a staple in the plastic, but that shouldn't cause us too much of a problem. And if I can, I will still remove those few. So let's have a look. Let's take this off, see what we got underneath. So that is what it looks like underneath. Now, as you can see, it looks pretty mouldy and pretty yucky. That's pretty normal actually for a I mean, this is a 1991, remember, so we are getting into 30 years of sort of damp and whatever, you know, sort of underneath there, and yeah, that mould is quite normal. And of course, once it's covered over again with vinyl, you wouldn't even know it's there, and it's no big deal. That isn't mould, that's just a bit of sort of a fluff type foamy sort of stuff that was underneath. What that might be is there's like a burn, a breakdown in the foam there, so someone's probably just sort of put that over there, so when they've covered over. This I think, by the way, isn't the original cover from 30 years ago. This I think is another cover that someone else has done and then restapled and whatever at some point, so could have been 5-10 years into its life and it's been recovered. You can repair it with something. So what I'm going to do with these areas here is I'm going to literally do that. I'm going to get something like a silicone sealant. I'm going to squeeze it in there and sort of smooth it over the top so it becomes smooth, so when you put your next vinyl covering over and put it tight, you can't see it underneath. Yeah, it's a little bit damp here, because what tends to happen, of course, is once water gets in underneath, it'll stay there. Once it's wet, it'll stay wet, and this is damp here. So what's a good thing, I'm not going to put the vinyl covering over and put it all tight and staple it up tonight. I'm going to actually leave it to breathe, let it dry out. Repair what we've got, that's how it looks. That sort of thin foam, it's very thin in these sorts of areas, and it is very damp, wet here. So I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, very yucky, not very nice at all. But yeah, there's moisture all in there, moisture all in this bit, so I'm going to let that breathe and dry out, and I'm just going to have a look at how much grey I've got compared to the black that's come off. Right, so as you can see now, this is the grey, the underside of the grey, and this is our old black pattern, and this is a metre, I believe, a metre long, so there should be just enough, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm going to cut that pattern, and then, like I say, I'll warm it up and then stretch it over, but that's enough for tonight, just to show you where I am, and yeah, we'll progress with this tomorrow. Right, so as you can see, here is the seat. This is dried out now overnight, and basically the white stuff that you see is this is a Evo Stick 007. It's basically a non sort of silicone based sealant adhesive. Something else similar to that is something called CT1, but yeah, this has dried now, and you can see that it moves and you know, has a sort of plasticity, if you like, of the foam, but it's bonded to the foam, and then it's filled in any bits like here where it was sort of sculpted in and the foam had broken down, so it's filled in that gap. So once the vinyl's pulled nice and tight over here, you won't see any sort of depressions in this area of the foam, any sort of breakdown in it. So yeah, that's the weight that you see, just so you know. I've cut a pattern loosely around the grey vinyl, a little bit wider than what was the sort of original pattern that come off of here. So I'm going to flip this over now, and then I'm going to start to begin to pin into place, and then sort of start to trim and fold it in, and you'll basically see it as we go. And yeah, I'll get set now. I've pulled all the staples out, so yeah, I'll crack on and you'll see it as it unfolds really. So I've got my staple gun here. I shall load it up with some 8mm staples. You can see on the 8mm, obviously that's the depth of 8mm. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a stretch there, and then just get that first one fired in. Make sure it's not pushing through. Actually, that is very slightly pushing through and could puncture through, so I'm just going to remove that. So just ease that out. And that's because it's a little bit close to that edge. So I'm going to just stretch that up a bit more. So I've got a real good stretch on that now. That's fired in, and that's now, I can't feel that protruding out the other side. So that's sort of the first one tacked into place. And what we need to do is sort of work our way around and then cut the excess off. So what I find best thing to do is sort of loosely sort of fire things. You can see I've got a lot of excess here, so I can begin to trim this now because I can see how much excess I do have. And you can see pretty much where I've drawn this line is where I need to be, so I can afford to now cut some more off. What you can never do, of course, is put it back on, so always good to have that extra bit, then cut off as you go. Otherwise, well, like I just said, once it's gone, and then you're in trouble. So yeah, sort of pin it into place, see what you need, and then you can begin to stretch up. You can see this has got a bit of stretch in it, and you're not pulling from the other side, so bring that over, and then I'm just going to fire that in. Just, like I say, just to pin it into place for now, and then pull the other side up. Bring that round. Just to tack it, and then you can always flip it over and see what it's like, and see how tight that is. And you can see, just for those 3 staples, that bit there is tight enough. And then obviously what I'm going to need to do is cut these into here to get this shape, so we don't have this gathering. But we can begin now to trim this if we want to. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to work my way up the other end first, before you start trimming off any excess down here, because like I say, once it's gone you can't put it back. Feel and see what it looks like. If you look at the moment, there's this massive sag in there. That's because it needs to be pulled right up around this section and begin to pull it down and around, and that, as you pull this, is going to cause other areas to not be right. That's why sometimes you pin into place and then you have to sort of unpin and pull it round again. But if you didn't start pinning somewhere, you kind of be fighting a losing battle really. So for now I'm just going to pin. You might notice a little interested feline there. I try to ignore her because otherwise I'd never get things done. I will concentrate on getting things done. So I'm just going to fire a couple in that side because it begins to then hold the shape, and you can really start beginning to see where the shape's coming and where it's not. So as you can see, this section here where you've got that real cutout looks terrible, whereas this top section is beginning to look okay. But we obviously need to pull this right round and underneath. That needs to come around there, this needs to come right round here. But as I pull this right round here, you're probably going to get this extra gathering, so we're going to need to sort of maybe even unpin it again and pull that back round. So it's really this section here that needs to be pulled right down. So that's really in this bit here. Now what you can do if you really need to, I mean this is at room temperature so it's not so bad, but if it was cold and I was trying to do this outside, I'd probably be warming this up with a hairdryer, which I did bring in, and then make it a bit warmer so it stretches a bit easier. Right, so I'm going to try and pull this right up and round, and then we'll see what it's like. Pin that there, try that again. And sometimes it is, I mean I'm no upholsterer, as you can probably tell. It's not like I do this for a living. So sometimes it is about a little bit of sort of trial and error when you're not experienced, seeing what something does and then going, right, okay, so that did that, so now I've got to, you know, try that or pull that or so yeah, you never want to be putting a lot of those staples in. That's just to hold that into place and just and right, this is about an hour or so later. I really don't want to bore you with me doing what I did, but you can get an idea there. I've still got a few more staples to do, a little bit of trimming up to still do, but as you can see it's pretty much there and got the shape. The hardest part was definitely this bit, pulling around here and trying to get the tension in this bit here. So yeah, again, that's almost it finished. I just need to put in some more staples and trim up, but at least the basic sort of shape is now formed and pretty much there, and it looks reasonably tidy now and obviously looks pretty nice now. Okay, thanks for watching Deano's Garage on this, which has been the VFR750 recovering of the old seat with the new grey vinyl.